Welcome back to Morning at NTV. Now, Uganda's first confirmed case of the coronavirus was reported on the 22nd of March when a 36-year-old male who had previously arrived from Dubai tested positive. In subsequent televised addresses, President Museveni announced an extensive list of measures to stop the spread of the disruptive virus. Among others, the president announced the closure of education institutions, the country's entry points including Entebbe International Airport, and also a ban on church gatherings. A month later, the country remains on lockdown with a 7 p.m. curfew. Now, to date, we have a total number of 56 confirmed cases. As of last night, it's 56 confirmed cases, and leadership amid these trying times has been notable to have women from the health minister at the forefront, Trade Minister Amelia Chambade, and women remain to have concerted efforts to fight this virus. But at the same time, as a nation that remains on lockdown, there has been a rise in the number of gender-based violence that has raised concern. As you can see in the back, joining us for this conversation in our Take Note segment, from Namirembe at his home is the 9th Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, the Most Reverend Samuel Stephen Kaziimba Mugalu, who has been vocal when it comes to speaking out against gender-based violence. Good morning and welcome to Morning at NTV, Your Grace. Well, good morning. If you can hear me, Your Grace, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, starting off the conversation, in your address to the media, at the end of March, you urged Christians to stay home, citing the verse in the Bible, which is Isaiah 26:20, "Go, my people, enter your rooms, shut the doors behind you, hide yourselves for a little while until his wrath has passed by," all in line with the government's measures at the time. But what is your take, Your Grace, on the government's measures to curb COVID-19 at this point in time in our country?
Yes, this is indeed a challenge, but it was the right thing to do in order to fight this pandemic. Because the disease is so contagious and very deadly, the only way to keep the community safe is to disperse them, to ensure there is no gathering, there is no where people could be together all the time in big crowds. So that was the right thing to do, but definitely it has created some challenges in the area of our economy, food, and also closing of schools and churches. So it is a challenge, but definitely it was the right thing to do.
Well, now, Your Grace, you mentioned one thing that, of course, this is also the ban on churches. How have these measures affected the day-to-day activities of the church, and how are you adapting to it as a church?
Definitely, it has been very challenging to us because we have lost the fellowship together as believers. We have also lost the income, but we have definitely learned to survive during this time using social medias, using the media houses like NTV and the other radio stations and TV stations. They have helped us a lot, and I'm so grateful. We have also adapted to other tools of communication, like Zoom, where we use actually now our meetings So these are actually new tools we have not been using, or they have been in existence, but we have not been using them. And we have learned to preach to the pews, but not really pews. We are ministering to many people, like on Easter, I had only 5 people in the church building, but I got the feedback. I spoke to masses in Uganda, outside Uganda, using Facebook, live streaming. So every good thing has a challenge, but also every bad thing has a good thing out of it.
That's very true. Now, Dr. Kaziimba, allow me to pinpoint our focus on reports coming in from different parts of the country that suggest a spike in the number of gender-based violence cases during this time. How is the church readying itself to assist in dealing with this issue? You, in some of your messages to the public during this time, in your sermons, you have mentioned it and highlighted it. But how is the church readying itself past just preaching about it and preaching against it?
Yeah, gender violence, domestic violence is a big thing at this time. But because the churches are not gathering for public worship, we have used the pastoral letters. I have written pastoral letters to the bishops, to the clergy, so that they can actually extend the same messages to their people using the same avenues. The radios, the televisions, for those who are having them in their areas, the social medias, Facebook messages, but also there are one way of helping the families to do so by sensitizing the families through home church avenues, because we still have some windows to reach out to families using home church ministry.
Okay. Well, Doctor, what exactly...
We are continuing to do so.
Just to interrupt you for a second, what exactly do we see happening in families at this point in time in the lockdown that could be bringing up this spike in the numbers of gender-based violence?
Yeah, we have realized that there is physical abuse, where some women have been beaten, others have been slapped, others have been definitely sexually abused, even girls in their homes. We have seen and we have heard that some men, because there is no income, they are very, very tough and rough. Others do not know how to handle the situation. And even some women don't know how to handle the men when they are suffering from resources and food, and the children are crying. There is no food in the home. Actually, we have even seen at the news, there is a lot of demonstration, even right from the homes. So this is what is happening, and we are very much concerned about it. That's why we have to come out to counteract it through our messages, still using the social media, the Facebooks, using the television, and pastoral letter messages.
Okay. Well, now taking a look at this, we have laws in place, Your Grace. There are good policies against gender-based violence. That we cannot argue, but it continues to be perpetrated against the women without impunity at all. And you have also come out in sermons, the church, all these messages, even before this lockdown, had been going out. But why do we continue to see these rotten tomatoes stay in our society? What is going on? What is the root cause that we don't seem to be picking at?
Yes, we have good policies and laws, but what I've discovered, these laws are not really implemented well. Because we may have laws which may not be put in practice. And this is when I want to call upon the law enforcers to ensure that they implement what was actually put on paper. But also some women, those who are victims and girls, sometimes they just keep quiet. They don't report. They shy away. I don't know, maybe because of our culture, women are taught to keep quiet. They don't mention about these things. But they are dying honorably in their homes, and girls. So we have policies, we have law, but the implementation is still lacking. Even those who have been able to talk, sometimes they have not been given enough support by the people concerned. So it is actually upon us, the church, to continue sensitizing and also helping them to know that when you have such a problem, you can call this one or this one, or even use the church to give support where necessary.
Your Grace, you mentioned something about culture, and if the church continues to speak and maybe the laws are in place, but if you have a culture where a girl or a woman is told that, well, if he beats you, then he loves you, or perhaps it is your fault that he's beating you because maybe you said something wrong, you spoke out of turn. Now, taking a look at culture at this point in time, and how do we deal with that issue, that element embedded in some people that I shouldn't speak if I speak up, they won't believe me that he has been beating me?
Actually, I want to challenge the cultures that are creating ungodly things. God is the cause of culture. But God is against the cultures. Culture is a way of life. But if there is a way of life which is very aggressive and it is depressive, it is actually oppressive, this is not a good thing. I just want to call upon the church leaders, the cultural leaders, the law enforcers, and all of us to know culture is a way of life, but it could really help women, girls, and all of us to live and enjoy. Something which is called culture, but it's oppressing. Culture should also be changed.
Okay. Well, speaking of culture being changed, away from that, the government has the policies. You've mentioned that the only issue lacking there is the implementation. But what else can government be looking into, in particular at this point in time, when it comes to the lockdown during this COVID-19 pandemic that has hit our country?
The government should continue to ensure that there are safe measures to help the women, girls, and those who are being oppressed, like giving some phone numbers to the people in the homes, or to the girls or the women, where they could call. They could also ensure that some sensitization is done. But also, once there are reported cases, they should definitely act. Because some women or girls, they have reported, and there's nothing done. There should be a way of resisting corruption, because there are some people who could come in to help. Once they just accept bribe, and maybe they take things lightly, then there will not be any justice. So that is something which needs to be done by the government, but also to find some ways of helping the survivors, even after the lockdown period is done. There should be a way of helping the survivors. But also counseling, there should be some social workers to be reinforced, so that they could do counseling. They can help the survivors, because definitely we'll have some shocks after even COVID-19 is done or the lockdown is done. We'll have those issues. So both the government, not only the government, but even the church itself, we need to be prepared for that.
Well, as the church, bringing in the church now, sometimes a number of people have, in the church, when you mentioned that the women should speak up, the women maybe, should they leave? Because one of the things is that, should someone leave their partner because they are bitten in this time? Some argue that the church will say, no, stay. Others will say the church says, pray for your partner and he will change. So in a situation, taking a look at after this situation, the lockdown, the COVID-19 pandemic, if there's a woman who has been bitten by her husband in this time and seeks divorce, what do you as the church have to say about that?
Definitely, when people are having some issues in their homes, we encourage them to seek help from their prayer partners, or even the pastors, or those leaders in their cell groups. That is very, very important. But when they come to seek for divorce, of course, the church will not allow that. We definitely have to work hard to ensure that there is a way of reconciliation is encouraged. That's why we have matron or maid, woman of honor. We encourage best man. These are not just for a day of wedding, which would be like a drama. That is a one-day drama. But after that, definitely we know there will be some quarrels, some conflicts, which are normal abnormalities. But the best men are encouraged to help the matron and the ministers. And not only praying, but these men, these women should be called and they are counseled, and rebuked where necessary. So we cannot, and actually, when things go to the extreme, we need also to involve the social workers and also police to help us when men are going violent, or women. So we cannot just say pray. Prayer is good, but it needs some other support social workers, and so forth. Divorce, definitely, for our church, especially I'm speaking for the Anglican Church of Uganda, there is no room for divorce, but there is room for reconciliation, reconstruction, renewal, reformation, revitalization, and so forth.
Okay. Well, now, Your Grace, on social media and also in the media, there have been also cases of men being bitten. Now, the cases are low, of course, compared to the women, but men are also receiving the end of violence. Now, police spokesperson Fred Enanga recently cited an incident in which this happened in Kamuli district where a wife assaulted her husband into a coma. Now, fearing that he was dead, she committed suicide. That incident alone highlights the sort of ugliness and cost of violence in our homes, not just to the women and girls, but also to men. So what is your message to Ugandans on that end? For men, do we also encourage they should speak up, this is not right, violence in general within our country?
Yes, these days we find that even men have been hurt by the women, and some others have been killed. This is so sad. So when we talk about violence, it's not only women, but also men. Not only girls, but even boys. The boys have been beaten by stepmothers, others have been denied food. All this is actually abuse in another form. So we definitely call upon the women also to continue respecting and love their husbands, like we call upon men to love their wives, and also to learn to work together. Where there is no resources, people should learn definitely to use the little they have. They should learn to solve their problems amicably instead of resorting to fighting or even killing themselves. And they should be advised if there is any conflict or there is somebody is angry, there are some simple skills. Go outside in the next room. Or there is a Chiganda way, if somebody is annoyed and the conflicts are about to begin, or quarreling, bring some water and drink it, but don't swallow it. Keep it in the mouth so that it will prevent you from speaking. You just have the water and or you move out and go around the house. Another thing is we have the angers agreement. Agreement number one, when you are annoyed, don't just retaliate. Just keep quiet. When you are annoyed, you can just walk around, just be silent. Or if you can't, go around in the next room or in the compound and look at the flowers, or even go in the garden and look at the banana plantation if you have the banana, or you have an animal, look at your animal, or if you are in the slums, go to the neighbors and, avoid, close contact, which may create problem for you, and come back after the anger has gone down.
Okay. Now, Your Grace, you mentioned anger. All that we're talking about, all this violence goes back, in these times, goes back to anger, frustration, not the uncertainty of what's going to come next could be also a telltale sign of what's going on in someone's heart at this point in time. For everyone that's watching Morning at NTV, where should their focus be, and how can they deal with this anger that sometimes they misdirect on someone or even their own child that has done nothing at all?
Yeah, like I have mentioned, it is always good to think about the repercussion. Because you may be angry and you get even a panga or a knife to pierce your wife or your child. Think about the repercussion, the after effect. Think about it, the result of this. So if you think about that, why don't you get out of the scene and you move out? Why don't you keep quiet? Why don't you call another person? In this case, why don't you call an opinion leader? Why don't you call a pastor? Why don't you call... before you act, all these are practical things. Because anger may not be avoided, because people were created differently. And some people react differently. But we need to know ourselves. Say, okay, when I'm angry, this is how I react. I better move out. I better call somebody to assist me. Let me think about the repercussion. Because you may end up in prison. And you miss your family. You miss doing all the productive things. So let us think about all the things. I want to encourage men and women, before you act, please think about the repercussion. Please go out of your house, go to the next room, or you can have a book and begin reading it. Or go to what makes you happy. Like for me, if I'm hungry, I just want to go and read my Bible, or I can watch the games. Oh, I like football. The real football, not the like American football, which they use the hands. I just want the real football where you use the foot.
Well,
and it makes me happy. And I can go and sing, or I put on church music, or so anything which can make me happy to reduce the stress.
Okay.
And when the appropriate time comes, we can talk about it. We can talk about it, we can settle it. Because the best way to fight it is to talk about it after, so that you come out with some possible solutions.
Well, thank you so much, Your Grace, for your time this morning. As your parting message to Ugandans who are watching you this morning, and also wherever they are wondering what is yet to come, what is your parting message?
Definitely, this time we are facing COVID-19. Let us continue washing our hands. Let us continue to keep the social distance. Let us avoid touching the mouth, the eyes, and also the nose. That's why actually, don't touch the men with dirty hands. Men is mouth, eyes, and nose. And also respect the rights of women. Women, wash your hands, or obey all the directives from the government and the Ministry of Health. We need also to move away from the crowd. We need definitely to continue to exercise regularly, and we should we should say no to hugs, but also let us respect one another, respect our wives, respect our husband, respect our children. Let us learn to use the small things we have. Let us understand each other. let us be flexible, let us adjust, let us know this is temporary, it's just temporary things, the best is yet ahead. Let us learn to pray together, read the word of God, let us invite others to help us where necessary. Let us keep our social workers in the picture to help us, but also the government to help those people who are misbehaving. Justice should be exercised.
Okay. Thank you so much, Your Grace, for your time this morning. That has been the Most Reverend, that is Stephen Samuel Kaziimba Mugalu. He joined us from Namirembe, and he is the 9th Archbishop of the Church of Uganda. We were having a conversation about gender-based violence that is on a rise in the country due to the lockdown. And he has mentioned a few things stemming, one of the reasons could be stemming from anger. Anger, stress, frustration, how about you breathe in, breathe out? He has given you a few tips, and you can even go to our social media platforms to get them. But he has given one quite interesting. If you really feel that you need to say something, put water in your mouth and first keep it there. Don't swallow it, just keep it there. Another thing he has mentioned is, ladies, please speak up. Report to the police. Do not be silent about this. And report to those you can, maybe even your family members. Say something. Do not remain silent. We're now going to be taking a short break, and we'll be coming right back to celebrate some of your birthdays.